Hello, everyone. How are you doing on this Wednesday evening? This is February the 19th, 2025. I'm going to tell you, I have been like all day looking at the news. The news report was that we would start getting snow at 12 o'clock. Believe it or not, at 11:50, it started snowing. And I've been watching it like a kid all day. And then, of course, last couple of hours it's been coming down. So it's a snowy day in my neck of the woods on the East Coast, but it's a warm day in our hearts. And you have tuned into the Power of Transformation. I am your host. I am Dr. Paula Obi, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. You're going to have to grab your cocoa and your coffee if you're in my neck of the woods, and you're going to have to grab your blanket because we got a juicy topic tonight. You don't want to miss it. We're bringing back our financial guru, and we're going to have some candid conversations that's going to help melt that heart. But we want you to stay warm, but we also want you to tag your friends. We want you to text them, and we want you to tell them that the Power of Transformation broadcast is on, and they do not want to miss it. And I'm going to do the same thing. We'll see you soon. Okay, so we're back. I'm hoping that you had enough time, to send a couple of tags, to tag some folks, and to tell them that the show, the Power Transformation show, is on. And all month we've been talking about love, right? Love in different aspects. And it's just been such a great time talking with the guests, and then the heart to heart we had on last week. But we have another amazing show tonight, and we're going to talk about love and finances. Can you have love without finances? Can you have finances without love? Inquiring minds want to know. We are welcoming back our financial guru. She is no stranger to the Power of Transformation. Let's bring in Noel. Come on in.
Hi, Paula.
Hello, Noel. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm not as cold as you are, thankfully. No snow here. I'm in Georgia and we have 0 snow, so I'm happy for that. Woo, no, thank you.
Well, it's really funny because I actually like the snow. It's pretty when it's coming down. However, it's cold. But I did a really good job. I went to the store on Monday before the crazies got out there, and I got all my goodies. Tried not to overdo on the chocolates. And just feel really good about, how it could be a couple of days,
Did you get your Valentine's markdowns?
Yes.
Smart.
I sure did. I marked them down a lot, but I had to limit myself because we're trying to do better. So I'm excited. I really do like the snow. We've been looking at some amazing pictures and videos all day, so I'm just as happy as I can be. And I'm also happy about you joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I love being back already. Feel like I just left you.
That means we have something really important to talk about when Noel comes on board. But we got some things to discuss. So we want to talk about love and finances, and this could go in a lot of different directions. So I'm waiting for you to I'm driving. I got my hand on the steering wheel, but the train is going to follow your direction. So let's talk about that.
Oh man, love and money. It's not just, a movie, we got to love of the game, so much goes on with love and money. And, you were talking about it before the show, so much to do already when you're kind of getting to know somebody, you're kind of meeting them, you're learning them, you're trying to figure out their quirks, what annoys you, what doesn't annoy you, what's enough to bring up and not bring up. And money is huge when it comes to couples because that's something you need to probably be on the same page before maybe even marriage. I would say before living together, before, building that big relationship of that lifelong relationship.
Yeah, money matters.
Mm-hmm.
In that relationship, money matters. And so why do you think, well, I'm going to let you do your presentation because I have a lot of questions, but I I guarantee you, as we move along, there are going to be some aha moments because you maybe go back down memory lane. You know, when I started walking down memory lane, I went all the way back to my very first relationship and said, how compatible were we financially?
Yeah. And you got to be careful because, you can end up with somebody who's a huge spender or
Mhm.
somebody who saves too much and is way too frugal for your liking. So you got to try and find that balance between the two. And yeah, that's a huge thing that you need to discuss probably
Absolutely. Yeah.
before.
And, we fall in love.
Yes.
We want to be together. We're inseparable. And we kind of, I think for some people, I'm not going to say everybody, I'm talking about me. So I can discuss. You kind of put this on another list. And too many times we say, oh, I'm the great example. I'll help them out and show them what to do. Well, let me tell you what my grandmother told me. And I just laughed today. She said to me, you sure do know how to pick them. And it was not a compliment. And it was all about this. You sure
hurt.
Pick them.
It hit your soul, didn't it?
Because she saw the incompatibility very quickly, how hard I obviously was working and had blinders on, and how the differences were. I'm going to say the differences were.
Yeah. And that's where that frank conversation, you just have to have it whether you want to or not. I've heard somebody say, get that 30 seconds of courage and just spit it out there real quick. And then you got to start the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we are a lot more aware of the importance. And I love this. This is money is a top cause of stress.
Mm-hmm.
The first date, who's going to pay for it? Are you going to go dash? That doesn't tell you very much about what's going on in their financial background, does it?
No, because, that first date, a lot is hidden. We're not showing our true selves, right? We're just kind of putting our best foot forward, our best face, and we want to make sure we're impressing somebody. So, that first date is kind of, everything's gravy.
Yeah, let's talk about what you love, what you don't like, what you want to do. Now we want to talk about let's talk about money.
Right. Let's talk about money because like you read on the top one, it's a top stress relationship. I joke because my husband, he's a spender. I see it's the opposite for us. I see those Amazon packages coming. I'm like, what are you doing? And sometimes I have to rein him back in, but you have to do it in a loving way because I don't want to say, what are you doing? Why are you spending so much money? You're wasting it. But I know that's his love language. That's what he likes to do. That's, what he does. And I have to keep myself in check because sometimes I can be too cheap. And I'm like, stop spending money. We don't need to spend. So you need to make sure you try to be balanced.
Balance. And the try to be balanced part is exactly what we're going to think. That's the thing we're going to discuss as we're moving forward. And the one thing that I can say, unfortunately for me, and I'm going to add to this, I believe that I just overlooked a lot of things. I didn't discuss it. Even though my grandmother was like, you know how to pick them, and she had some more verbiage to it, I didn't feel or have the courage to really address it, properly address it. Mm-hmm. I kept saying, oh, it'll be okay. Oh, it'll be okay. It never was. So what did that say about me with connecting? This is actually probably another show, connecting with people time after time who just didn't have the same financial acuity that I needed to move forward.
Maybe you're just trying to stay in that first date moment and just try to make everything seem happy and easy. And that's where you got to build that trust with each other. Because now it's not about, who's in control and who's not in control. It's about having that deep respect for one another and having that conversation like, okay, well, I'm thinking about purchasing this. What are your thoughts? It's like my husband, he wanted to buy a car. That's a huge investment. Mm-hmm. And of course, my knee-jerk reaction is no. We already have one that's paid off. But let's have a conversation about it. Why do you want to buy a new car? Why do you feel we need a new car? And why do you feel we need that, $500-600 payment? So you got to give them the respect that they deserve.
Communication. And I love the scripture because, for me, everything has to have that scriptural basis. It's two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. The problem that I've seen more than once is one person is doing all the toiling and one person is doing all the non-toiling. Right. I've seen that too many times. I've experienced it. So I'm feeling this as we're talking. And the only thing that I can say, Noel, is that I didn't have the courage to speak up for myself, or maybe I was afraid of losing the person. I told you this year I would be truly transparent. Sometimes we're so afraid of losing someone
Mm-hmm.
that we will jeopardize our financial lives for it, and it's
Yeah,
really something to think about. So I'm all over. You got my undivided attention here.
for sure. Because you're so scared of losing somebody. It's almost like you're walking on eggshells because you want to make sure that person is happy at your own expense. And
At
that's
your own expense. You don't want to
Mhm.
say no. Oh, sure, we can do that. Oh, sure, we can do that. One of the things, and I know you're going to move on, but we may have to come back to this if we don't
Nope,
get it
you're
all
fine.
done today. One of the things that's really important for me is to talk about lessons learned, is making someone happy. They need to also make you happy. And
Correct.
talking about how you manage your fundings is a really big deal. And if they're upset with you because your funding is a little different from theirs, and that's a great time to stop, pump the brakes, and really have a deep conversation
Hmm.
and be truthful. That's when the antenna should go off. Your antenna should go off and say, "Am I okay with this?"
Right. And it's huge because you might find out that your partner is in huge debt that they've been hiding from you for since the beginning. And that's something, once you get married, that debt becomes your debt. You have, decided to become one and you need to
Hmm.
tackle it together. It's not just his or her debt. That's something, you chose to do together. So that's something you need to seriously consider before saying, I'm going
Absolutely.
to be yours.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, whether we like it or not, and I am going to let you move on to the next slide, maybe. Sometimes people choose you because you are financially solid.
Hmm.
So they say things to you you want to hear. Oh, you can really help me because I have weaknesses in this area. And that can be a true statement.
Yes.
However, what if the person doesn't want to follow in the same footsteps? Then though that sounds really good to your ears, there's a process, and it's not always easy to follow the plan. They don't know how you got there.
Right.
And they may or may not be willing to follow the advice or guidance. And then locked arms and we're in it together and you love me, so you should stay here. And I'm like,
It's going to be tiresome and they're going to guilt you. And if they continue to do that same repetitious, let me get out of debt, let me get in debt, let me get out, there's only so much one person can do. And it's going to put a strain definitely on your relationship if one person is trying to carry the load and get them out of debt every time just for the partner to get them back into debt. So, yeah.
it's hard. That's a hard life. And I've lived it. So I'm not talking about anything but myself. Anybody can relate to it. That's your story. I know mine. You took me back down memory lane, and I was trying to figure out, did I even have ever one? Did I ever have one really good, solid relationship where we were financially compatible? And Noel, the answer is no.
Oh, that's going to be a whole nother show.
We'll reschedule that for next week. The answer is no. Okay, let's go.
So, understanding money and the different mindsets. So, people, we're all different. We all come from a different, generation. We all come from a different mindset. So we might have different upbringings. That's going to be different money habits and how we're thinking. So, our culture, let's save, let's, work hard, let's save, let's put it in the bank. Or another's like, let's take some risk. Let's, invest it in this. Let's invest it in that. So that might be where you might start butting heads because you're not used to a different mindset. You're,
Correct.
you're used to what you were always taught. Work hard and save your money and you'll be fine.
Correct. And definitely, I totally agree. The different upbringings, we talk about it from other standpoints, but we don't really delve sometimes into how does your family feel or how were you taught about this? And you've been working for 10 or 15 years. What have you been able to accomplish? We don't want to get into that conversation because you'd rather be in the lovey-dovey part. However, it's hard to be lovey-dovey if you've got a problem here. It's
I
hard for
agree.
me. I can't speak for everybody else, but this right here tears my nerves up.
And yeah, it got to the point, no offense to my family, they're all broke. And so broke people, I'm not listening to broke people.
Yeah,
That because they're not changing their mindset. They want to stay broke and think that they can give me advice on money. That's not going to happen. So I need to reset and rethink how I'm going to be my own independent self with my partner versus listening to maybe my family members who haven't gotten anywhere.
Correct. And I made a promise to myself, that I would graduate from high school, graduate from college, I'd take care of myself and have, my friends used to tease me and say, well, you just want the house and the picket fence. Yes, I wanted to be able to live in a place that was
We gotta
decent.
have shelter.
Shelter was good, and so I always made sure I had shelter, but they were always over my house, hanging out. So obviously they enjoyed the security that I loved. And but that was a promise I made to me that I would be secure and safe and where I lay my head. And I'd have to pay for it.
Wrong. That's what you want, where others, maybe that's not important to them.
They may not be
fine going from place to place to place, and they're just adventurous, and that's what they want to do.
And that conversation is so important. And one question can help you. How long have you been living at this address again?
Exactly.
Can help, well, in the last, how many times have you moved in the last? I mean, if that's important to you and the security was very important to me, then you need to at least have a conversation about it. I'm just saying, let's think about, if your upbringing was different from mine, let's think about what our goals are now. And there are pieces to this puzzle and stepping stones that we all can take. So I love this. Mm-hmm.
I want to know how many times if my partner has been evicted. That's huge for me. Evicted, that means you are not managing your funds at all, and or something happened. If maybe you lost a job, but let's have a conversation about that. So you need to know next too.
Yeah.
Is your partner a saver or a spender? We've had that discussion. I already know where me and my partner stand. So that's where a huge thing is. You need to know. And I've seen it where spouses, they've hidden credit cards from their significant others, and they've hidden how much debt they have been in, to the point where they're scared. They're $60,000-$70,000 in debt, and now they're scared to even bring it to their partner, because they're thinking they're going to get divorced over it because they've been lying for so long.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we're doing is making this personal, but this is reality.
Mm-hmm.
Are we saying that you can't move through it? Of course you can. However, these are the conversations that will help you build the right type of plan. I have to trust the person here. I do not want to come home and can't stick my, key in the door. If I had that happen once, I never want that to happen again. And the way you prepare is to have these hard conversations.
Exactly. You need to know how they're going to be viewing debt. If they think debt's okay, we're always going to have debt. We're always going to have a car payment. We're always going to have a house payment. We're always going to have a credit card debt. You need to know what their views are on that, because that's important, because maybe you don't want to have a credit card debt. Maybe you feel you want to pay off that car and pay off that house, because those are all attainable goals if you put your mind to it. So you need to know overall what their financial risk is, because they're not only risking themselves, they're risking you as well. And if you have children, that's a huge conversation, because now you're putting your children at risk as well.
Right. And these are all things that can be changed.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a conversation at the onset, these are things that maybe you want to give yourself a little bit more time before you become serious, and get on the plan so that you can at least see we're trying. Mm-hmm. To get there, because like you said, the honesty and the truth serum has to happen right here. I love the last bullet. Financial freedom is available to those who learn about it and work for it. In other words, this is an equal opportunity employer here. Financial freedom is, if you follow the plan, it doesn't discriminate against anybody. No. You just have to follow the plan. I like that. And
notice that last phrase, you have to work for it. It's not just going to come, okay, here, let me just try it. No. Being financially, getting yourself out of debt financially, it's a lot of work, and it's going to cause you to have sacrifices. You may have to just sell that car you bought because you don't need that car payment right now.
Right.
You need to focus on your debt. You don't need Hulu, Netflix, how many different streaming platforms, Paramount. You might just have to live off of the free Pluto, platforms for a little while. Yeah. And that's the stuff you need to have, and you got to work for.
You have to work for. And notice what we're talking about is not including the emotional side of it. And I think for me, just full disclosure, I would get emotionally involved. Well, they can't do that for themselves. I don't mind. The I don't mind maybe once, but when the I don't mind then turns into a regular kind of behavior, I'm not in a decent place. I'm not in a good place, and I'm not open. In the past, I've not been open to discussing it. So I'm sure that this is going to help someone. Like it's even helping me just reflecting. It's definitely good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, because when you constantly you're giving pieces of yourself each time, you're letting a little bit go and a little bit slide, and you just to the point probably where you're not happy.
Right.
And then it affects overall relationship that way again. And you're giving small pieces of yourself away, and you're just disrespecting yourself by not making sure you're happy as well, making sure you feel safe. Because when it boils down to it, you want to feel safe with your partner. You want to feel that that partner respects you and loves you. And when they're constantly putting you at risk of whatever it is, then that's when you start having the serious problems. You can't sleep at night, the restless sleeping, I'm going to snap at you just because I've been keeping it all in for so long, and every little thing's going to trigger me. Right.
Right. And and it also, a lot of people have serious health issues. I remember someone in my family, just discussing something, and I could tell that the scenario was just really, it was hard on him, and he just was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to, he was just, it had taken its toll on him physically. He's no longer with us. So I'm not saying that that's what took him out of here. I'm just saying that it was really hard just to hear him talk about the new scenario, because prior to engaging in that type of relationship, he didn't have those issues.
No. And sometimes you're going to have to come and make these tough decisions. If you have your partner who is just a spender and they're putting you in a hole every month, I've seen it where, that partner has to create it, establish their own bank account. Here you go. And here is your, what's the word? Here's your little bit of money you can spend. Once that's gone, that's gone. And it sounds so rude but they're doing it out of love, because if they didn't give you that a little bit of allowance and kept money separate, imagine how far you keep on spending. Do you spend them out of house and home?
Right. And I'm pulling back just a little bit, because there was a reason why I just turned a blind eye to it. And that's definitely another show, but you've got to pull yourself back into reality and think with that grown-up mindset, because money is responsible for paying the things that you really stated you wanted. And working together is going to be so much more comfortable for you than not working together and you don't even know where the money's going. And I know I have triggers. So I'm working on those financial triggers. There's things that would trigger me just like that. And I'll go, do you really need that? Or just why do you want that again? And those are great conversations to ask, because, you need to take care of you. You need to take care of the situation.
Right. And we're not trying to make it all doom and gloom. There's once you guys work together, it's harmony.
It's a plan. And, and I don't want to be the only one working two jobs.
No.
Just because, you know what I'm saying? If I want to work, fine, but I don't want to have to constantly do that. I'm just hypothetically thinking I don't want to have to constantly bear the weight of the burden, because I can't get some harmony in between our ability to be able to manage our money. So very good communication about finance. That's what we're talking about. Importance of open and honest discussions. Whew, and those are going to be some hard discussions, right, Noel?
They really are. And I think if you have to have, when you're with your partner, those monthly budget meetings. And it's important that both of you are there. It can't just be one person doing the budget and then, here, let me give you the report. This is what's going on. You both need to be included in this discussion, and you need to have an open mind and not feel that someone is attacking you. Right. So come up with a safe word. I don't know. Come up with, to the point where, when you start getting to that heat, if you get to that heated point, let's stop. Let's breathe. Let's regroup. Let's go to our corners and let's regroup. So this isn't about blaming anybody. This isn't about using any kind of negative language. We need to make sure when we do these monthly budget meetings, we're coming at a place of love because we're trying to, reach a certain goal, whether it's to get out of debt, whether it's to have a great retirement, whether it's to go on vacation and have some fun. We're aiming for a goal, and that's something we're doing together.
Right, right. I love the fact that you said use we language instead of blaming. It's so easy to blame. I am not, if you notice, I haven't said anything about it, but it was really me, because I felt like I was in charge of me and I didn't, and I'm making it, I'm owning it. I'm owning the part that, you had choices and you didn't make them. You're reminding us that we have choices. And we can make those choices. You just have to have the courage. And when you're sitting in those meetings and you're comfortable and you're looking at the what's going on, you're like, you're kind of busy. We're kind of busy this month. Let's figure out what was going on. I love that. And then discussing your financial priorities and expectations. My number one priority is not to be outside.
Yeah,
I don't want to look at my car. That's not what I want to do. It's really cold outside tonight. I do not want to not be somewhere safe, and I want to be somewhere safe. That's a big deal for me. It's a big goal. So I don't want anyone breaking into my house. I want to be in a nice neighborhood. So what that means is I have to work for that.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, I can bunk anywhere. Okay, but for me, I have to be safe.
Yes.
And I love what you said. Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so. Amos 3:3. Not sure what version that is, but I love it because we use that a lot in other areas. But for some reason, when it comes to the finance, we get really quiet when we discuss this. Agreeing is hard.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I'm too old to be sofa surfing. I do not want to live from sofa to sofa. And that's why it's important we set these goals, we set these meetings, and you need to be intentional about it. You need to get a shared calendar, put it on that shared calendar, and make it something important. Because if it's something like, we'll just do it again next month, or we'll try it again, then it's never going to get done. You have to make it a priority.
Right.
Make it something serious, or else it's just not going to get done. And you're going to continue in the same vicious cycle if you're trying to get yourself out. And you need to make sure that you're setting the expectations. This is what we're going to do in our meeting. This is what our goals are. This is what we want to take care of. These are our top priorities. So for you, Paula, making sure you're in a safe environment in a home is your top priority. This is what we need to discuss every month to make sure that my goal, my top priority is getting performed every month.
Every month. And one of the things, like you said, we're not beating each other up, but you can't help but reflect. I'm just being truly honest. If you were better at money management prior to getting connected with someone, you can't help but reflect on the reality that getting connected with you has really caused my finances to go, in another direction. I remember once I had a brother. My brother said to me one time, whenever you get connected with this person, you have money problems.
Ooh.
I thought, he's right.
Yeah.
When you're not around this person, you do well. That's real talk.
And it's nice that you had a brother who loved you that much, who he could tell you that, where he could have just been like, oh, well, you do you and hope it works out.
But it got me thinking because I knew that there was something I was doing differently because I was in a relationship.
Yes, my uncle and his wife, they have separate accounts because she is a spender and he can't have her spending all of their money. So they have to keep separate accounts. And, it was a tough pill for her to swallow, but eventually she saw he was doing it out of love and why he was doing it. And if they ever wanted to retire, that he had to do it.
Right. He had to make good decisions. Once you tell yourself, and tell the other person, we're doing this because we love each other. If I've got to work 80 hours a week, if I've got to work 60 hours a week, I want something to show for it, and these are the things we agreed on. It's like you have to remind them that love comes in many forms, definitely managing our finances. This is really another way for me to tell you and show you how much I care about us and our present and our future. I just think that's important.
Yes. And if you go into the meeting, your money meeting, thinking it that way, then it should come out It should
Yeah.
come out good.
Yeah. I'm thinking so too. I feel like we are on the right track. Budgeting as a couple. Woo.
Yes. So you got to create a shared budget. You cannot go in there saying, you can spend this much and I can spend that much and kind of like have it, 70-20. Like we cannot do 70-30, we cannot do that. We need to have it where we agree upon a shared budget where it is reflective of both of us. I mean, and maybe someone might need a little bit more money. Maybe they're the breadwinner, they're working the long hours. But maybe the woman, one's taking care of the children. So they need a little extra money because they're the ones doing the grocery shopping, the clothing shopping, the everything shopping. So
Right.
they're going to need maybe a bigger budget. So you need to find that balance and give and take and making sure you have agreed upon the shared budget you create.
So I've heard you say, I wish I had a dollar every time we've said the word agreed upon. We have to really understand the importance of being able to agree, the power of agreement. Even if we disagree on other things, if we're constantly disagreeing on this, if we say we're going to do it and we don't, that's pressure, you know.
Right.
That's a lot of pressure because you have to cover the money pays for a lot of things and something has to cover it. And a person that's working really hard to meet the goals that you just stated in your meeting, if you have both of you are working hard, I think you'll feel better about the outcome.
I agree.
Agreed upon.
Right, because you're working very hard. And if someone's just willy-nilly blowing everything, that's a problem. They're not respecting you and how hard you work for what you're bringing into that household.
Right.
And especially if it bothers you, then you need to find your voice and you need to speak up so that way you need to be able to tell your partner. You need to have that relationship where you say, this is bothering me and this is why it's bothering me.
Yes. And a lot of times, and many, when I was younger, I used to hear different conversations about who should be the breadwinner and who should do this and who should do that. Why you and your household is the household that needs to be successful. So me overburdening someone else because someone's telling me that's how it should be, it means I don't really know how to love you. I mean, maybe using the wrong parameters. Maybe I need to think about it. Overburdening someone that I love because I following somebody else's advice may not work.
I agree. And at some point, you need to have that conversation of whether you want to have joint accounts or separate accounts. That's a huge deal to join your finances and get them together. And I've heard, when I got married, she's like, oh, well, keep them separate. You never know. Oh, you're married now. You should keep them. You should join them together. Push all that outside noise off. Push it out. This conversation needs to happen between you and your partner.
Right.
You need to decide what you feel is most comfortable for the both of you and not what anybody else thinks. It's so easy to, oh, well, maybe I should keep a separate account. You never know what's going to happen. I'm a woman, and I need to make sure I keep my money safe. What if something happens?
Right.
That's that negative thoughts that's coming in that someone either lets creep in or you let yourself creep in. Push it out. You're already expecting the worst. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing good is going to happen if we're already expecting the worst. I'm not saying don't protect yourself, but you need to decide what is going to be best for the both of you.
For the both of you. And learning the personality, learning the habits, taking time to really learn and tell the truth will help you make those types of decisions. They're hard decisions. When you're talking about separate or together, those are hard decisions. But the more you know about my spending habits, the more you know about what triggers me, the more we know about our goals, that can help us with this decision. We need to know more.
Agreed. Yeah. And you need to make sure the third bullet point is like planning for fun. It can't all just be about work. Right. It can't all be about let's get out of debt. Those are important. But if you do all the work and have zero fun, you're going to start not to resent one another, or the person who's driving this driving this train, who's driving this force, saying, we got to focus on debt. You need to make sure you're planning that fund too, and make sure you have funds for emergencies, which is a whole nother topic.
Right. So planning for funds should be a part of that conversation.
Yes, you should put it. It's a line item that should be put inside of your budget. You need to plan for if it's a big vacation or if it's just going somewhere for the weekend. If money's tight, let's start planning for it at the beginning of the year. Let's put, $20 aside, and by this such and such date, I want to be able to go to just the park or go to wherever, or, anything that you're planning to. That's a goal you want to reach.
Mm-hmm. And when you work together on the goal, it really feels great when you can reach that goal. Mm-hmm. One of the things as you're talking, is floating in my mind is when one person is having all the fun, planning all the activities, and one person is paying for it. That's hard. You want to agree. We can't afford the beach every weekend, but we can afford it maybe once a month or maybe once every other month, especially when you've looked at, once you get there, how much money you spend.
Right. Well, and that's where we go, like, let's budget. Let's say, let's go to the beach. But hey, when we were kids, I'm sure you've done it. Let's pack those sandwiches. Let's pack the cooler. Let's pack the toys. All that is minimal cost because we've, bought groceries ahead of time. Let's pack the fruit and everything. You eat what's in that cooler or you don't eat it all.
Well, you don't eat it all. But you know what we like to do? We want to get the crab legs and the lobster tail. And you can't go down to fresh fish. And again, if you plan for it, you can do a lot of things if you plan for it. But you don't want to get out there, and I'm just recalling the activities in my back of my, my past, where you're having all these wonderful beach trips and you come home and you got the stack of bills that you should have paid before you went to the beach.
Right.
Got it. I'm with you.
We need to make sure too. I want to spend a little bit of time on emergencies. Okay. Because I think too many times we just rely on our credit card when something happens and we just swipe it. And now we have 20% interest rate that's hitting us every month.
So what kind of advice do you give us for preparing for emergency fund, just overall?
At minimum, emergency fund should be at minimum at least $1,000 in your savings account. This is money set aside. And that's money we're not going to touch unless emergencies happen. It's not going to cover a huge emergency. It's going to cover, if my tire gets flat and popped and I need to buy a new tire. If maybe, the washer goes out. Hey, here's, I have money for a new washer. We're not dipping into, where our mortgage doesn't come. We're not dipping into that credit card because that's the only thing we have. We need to make sure we keep that separately. And once we use it, we need to make sure we're replenishing it. And that's something you have to put in your budget. I'm going to put, such and such amount each month for my emergency to put into and to keep it aside. And then I'm going to start going gangbusters on my debt. I want you to have that emergency fund before you start going crazy on your debt, because that's why, that's the repetition of keep on going back in debt, because we're not prepared.
Yeah, not prepared. So what kind of mindset do you think, I'm not telling you to get in my mindset, what kind of mindset do you think is going on when someone doesn't want to be prepared? What do you think is going on?
It may be like one of our beginning slides. It may be just their upbringing. Maybe that's what they're used to. They might just be used to living paycheck to paycheck. And it's just a part of life that they've just accepted and they're accustomed to, and it's not a big deal to them.
So this is going to be a huge conversation for someone if they're not accustomed to saving
right
$10 or $15 or $20. And that's just a goal that you have to constantly reinforce good behavior. Say, yes, if to get to that $1,000, we want to get it to it at a certain time. Let's do this. You said, let's put X amount of dollars to the side so that we have this. Over the next year, let's find a way to get it done. I told somebody, I said, one of the things that I've done is I won't touch any of my birthday money.
There you go.
To say, that doesn't exist until I need it. But if someone gives me birth, whatever they give me, I'm just going to hang on to it.
Right. And that might mean, to fund your emergency fund, that might mean paying the minimal balance on that credit card until you can build up that emergency fund.
Right. Right.
Because once you have that piece of budget and that emergency fund, and then you can start going towards your debt and start attacking that debt like nobody's business. Selling the, everything that's not nailed down in the house, finding that second side hustle, Ubering Eats. It doesn't matter. You need to find a second stream of income if you're finding you want to hurry up and pay off that debt, right?
Yes. And I tell you, it would be worth it for you to put in the effort than to be sick from the over budgeting and, oh my God, how I'm going to do this. Turn that energy into, let's be more proactive. Let me work a couple of 10 or 15, if that's what you can do, 10, 15 extra hours toward the goal rather than staying up at night worrying about how we're going to get it done. I like that.
Yeah, I'd rather have a good night's sleep and not stress knowing I'm taken care of than
Yeah. And another thing you have to deal with, and you might have to come back on because I know we have more slides. We might have to do this, continue next week. You have to really be strong in this area because I remember when I was working, when things were going relatively well for me, and I got into a situation where someone was like, "Well, you're working too much. Well, the bills have to get paid." And then the conversation is, well, my disease doesn't allow me to do what you do. When you get into those situations, that's a tough one because you don't feel like you can really. I mean, if they have some issues and they can't get it done, you have to really sit down and have a honest conversation with yourself about how you're going to really step it up to the next level and deal with this grown-up side of life.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, honest and being grown up. A lot of the times we just don't want to face it. We're kind of scared to see what our finances actually look like. And so many times I've sat in front of folks, and once we've got it all down, we've put it on, the next one's talking about tracking expenses. Once we put it on a tracking tool and to see how long it's going to take them to get out of debt, you see a sigh of relief. They're like, okay. They didn't want to face it, but when they finally faced it, they finally realized, I'm not going to be paying debt for the next 20 years. No, not if you put in the hard work, change it up a little bit, change your lifestyle up a little bit. Let's tweak some stuff here and there. I'm not telling you got to do some drastic changes. You might, but let's look at what we can do to get you on track
together. And that's what's important. Overburdening one person is not cool. Sometimes you do have to take you have to take the lead, but at the same time, love should also say, well, I can't overburden that person. I've got to do my part. And I think maybe being a grown-up, stop making excuses, realize that we have to work on this together, and we can. It's not something that we cannot achieve. One of the things also that I wanted to bring up, and I'm sorry for all the scenarios, but this has really hit me hard. And personal stories are so important. Sometimes we look at somebody and say, well, they didn't have anything, so now I want to shower them with everything. I want to be the great person. Honey, I have been there and I have done that. And the great person's bank account was like not where it needed to be because you're trying to do something that may not be healthy for you or them.
No. I agree with you 100%. I can tell you, and I'm going to go on a side scroll story here too. I think for me personally, like working with family is probably the toughest thing to do because you want to yell at them, you want to shake them, and you want to tell them, I can have patience with everybody else, but when it comes to your family, and they don't want to hear it because they're like, I've spoken with one, well, you need to get a second job. Looking at your phone, I'm not getting a second job. This conversation is over. Then you're not even trying to change your experience. You're not trying to change your life. And because I know once, especially with family members, you're going to start going down that rabbit hole. You may want to help them too much and you kind of insert yourself in there. You're like, maybe help them a little more with this or help them with this. And then they're sucking you dry. And you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. And again, when we bring it to the table, there are some people, for myself, I'm not necessarily a couch potato. So it bothers me more not to have things done than sitting around, binging on Netflix. Because while I'm binging, I'm thinking, okay, that has to be done tomorrow. Oh my God, that needs to be, you know what I'm saying? So I think when we sit down and say to each other, what you're saying is let's agree.
Yes.
Let's
And last
agree.
bullet point, I think, was a good one too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're fine.
So a
Hmm.
budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went.
Yeah. And if you take a year, you're talking about a year out of your life to really kind of 6 months to revamp the rest of your life. I feel like we're worth that. I feel like we're worth that time. I have a relative who we had a conversation and we talked about the take home and everything. And for a minute, I didn't know whether or not he was going to even take my advice. But I'm so proud of him because he's been able to at least, get the working part done, and now he's moving on with. And I said, just one step at a time.
Right.
Yeah, just one step at a time. And as a couple, if you can make the steps that move you forward, you're always going to have times when one person has to step in. That's just life.
Right.
But if that one person is always stepping in because the other person has excuses, that's hard.
Yes, and I agree. And if you have that person step in, be careful who you have stepping in. Be careful who's the one giving you advice. Like I said earlier, broke people are going to give you broke advice,
Hmm.
and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but maybe you can learn from them. So yeah,
Yeah,
be careful who has your best interest at heart, and make sure it's coming from a place of love or someone who knows what they're talking about and can help you get to where you want to get to.
right. And I do now because of the scenarios that I've actually personally gone through. I do look for certain things. I listen to certain conversations. And I do know that someone said to me, well, you're just drawing all these people. There must be something inside of you that's attracting you to people that don't have blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, whatever it is, I need for that to stop.
You need to
let's
find those like-minded folks to be
let's draw
around.
the like-minded people.
Mhm.
Basically, it's just let's have the conversation. And let's not get too emotionally involved. And remember that I can love you all I want to, but when I get ready to pay that rent, when I get ready to put gas in my car, it's going to have to take a little bit more than love. And we can do this. We can
Yeah,
do
my
this.
mortgage isn't paid by love whatsoever.
Yeah, it's not. And Lord knows we have great opportunities to have a second hustle if we need. We have great opportunities out there. Let's work those opportunities. Let's have these great conversations. Get you a financial advisor. Talk about it and say, you know what? Maybe for the last 25 years, I've done it differently and it's been painful. Let's start today.
Mhm.
Why not today make a start? Oh, Noel, what else we have to say? Noel, can you come back? Can you come back next week?
Have to. We have to finish this conversation. We only got
Because
halfway through
I'm
it.
not done. I'm not done with this conversation because it's a pain point, but I've learned from it. But I really feel like it's blessing someone. It's definitely blessing me. I want people to know that God wants them whole, even in that area, their finances, and we can do it. We can do it. Hey, this is really good. Anything else you want to say? The time has flown by. What happened?
We're done. We're out of time.
When did that happen? Okay, so
Quick.
there's lots more to talk about, everybody. So we'll be back next week to finish this conversation. We do have one more week in this month about love. So what a great way, to end it and talking about love and finances. I just think this is going great. Noah, thank you so much for being willing to just talk about this and sharing your heart. I'm sharing my heart. If you have any questions, go ahead and talk to Noel. Send her an email. Seriously, let this year be a year where you're like, you know what? I'm going to save X amount of dollars a month. Talk to
Mhm.
her, get a plan. Let's get a plan together. Let's save that marriage. Let's save that relationship. Let's save that health issue that could actually be, in the background because the person is so worried they can't sleep. Let's do this. We can do it, right? Let's at least start.
Can't always do it alone. You just need that little extra help, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe in the past, we felt a little embarrassed. I know I was embarrassed. I didn't even tell anybody what I was going through. And my grandmother was like, you didn't want to talk about it? No, because we're ashamed. I want everybody to
Mhm.
know. But sometimes you have to say, I'm just not doing well in this area. I was before, I'm not now. And the not now is what's painful because you have to answer the why question, but you're worth it. And God wants you to be, in that great place. Noel, thank you. It's time to turn this train around. It's been chugging along in love and chocolates and having a good time. But, the power of transformation train has to return itself to the station. And we're going to say the same thing today as we say at this point, as we say every week. You have to trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a plan, trust the plan so that the power of transformation can do its perfect work in your life. This broadcast is based on an excerpt from Romans 12:2 that says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're staying warm. I know somebody's going to talk about snow cream. I don't even want to talk about snow cream right now. I'm just going to go out there and look at all of that snow. It's probably still coming down and just come right back in the house. But thank you, Noel. Thank you, everyone, for watching us. Please like and share us. And then again, she's going to pop her email back up there one more time. We're going to get going and we're going to get out of here. And we're going to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We love you, and we're going to see you next week. Take care. Thank you again, Noel.
All right. Thanks, Paula. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.